there was that they went out to the community, they held a number of workshops. There was an online survey with almost 900 participants and respondents. We are utilizing that information with this update, and they drafted a plan in 2017 for the text portion and an update. You know, they left the maps alone, and we're doing a text update, and that version is what we started with this exercise today. And the Planning Commission had approved the master plan update for the 2017 round, and then in 2018 it was presented to the county commissioners where it was not approved. So we are currently utilizing that 2012 version of the master plan. And so you can find that version online as well at the community development website at Douglas County. And then in 2019, I came in as a new community development director and was directed to prepare for getting the master plan over the finish line with the board. We went through an exercise in December to update the maps, and we did update those maps for the master plan. That's all we did. We didn't update any of the text. It was just the map. Per NRS 278, the master plan is supposed to be a map, so we started with that. And what we did is we revised some of the areas that were already as receiving areas in the county to the actual land use that those receiving areas were developed as, and we removed that receiving area from the books. And then in addition to that, we looked at the community boundary areas to see if those made sense, talked with some property owners associated with those projects and with those areas like around the airport, and we revised the central cultural area. We expanded that area significantly around the Bentley properties east of the airport, and then we revised the north boundary or the northern is the Jacks Valley community area plan, and we revised that boundary as well. And Minden and Gardnerville, we separated those out, one for Minden, one for Gardnerville. And so we were moving forward with those maps. That map was approved in 2019. We did hold 3 community workshops, and now in 2020, we had planning commissions meetings and combined with the Board of County Commissioners meetings, and we got direction from both boards to get the text updated. And so that's where we're at in that process. So what is the master plan? Oh, I got the wrong slide here. I apologize. So the chapters and elements that we have had in the past, we looked at all of those and we combined a number of them to streamline how many elements we actually had in the master plan. So we have land use. We've combined that with historic preservation. When you look at that plan, yes, preserving our history is important, but we can deal with those goals and policies within each community. Right now, there is a historic district in Genoa, and so that's the one that we'll focus on, is that Genoa community area plan is where we'll focus those goals and policies on in the master plan. So we consolidated those: agriculture and conservation. We left economic development alone, community management and housing, growth management and housing, and then public facilities and services and recreation we left alone, and public safety, which was added in the 2017 draft, and we left that one alone. And we will discuss those reasons why. But the master plan and these elements have goals, policies, and actions all in each element. And what we found as reviewing these goals, policies, and actions is that many of the elements and many of the land use sections have duplicate information. There's the same goal for each of the land uses, and we don't need to have that information duplicated a number of times. And so we took that duplication out, and we're going to reorganize the master plan, hopefully make the document smaller which was our goal in the beginning of this project. So I'm going to turn the time over to Derek with Wood Rogers, and he's going to take the next section. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Derek Kirkland with Wood Rogers. So we were the consultant hired to help Douglas County with the master plan update, primarily with the goal, as we heard from the Board of County Commissioners, is to really consolidate and really look at making this plan more usable for the community, more usable for staff. So that's really what our goal is to come on, not reinvent the wheel, but come on and try to help reorganize the plan and make it so that it's implementable at the end of the day. To do that, we've had several, we have a couple other team members as well. One of those being the University of Nevada, Reno, who's helped us with some of the data collection update piece of the master plan. And then also we've had Logan Simpson, who's another planning firm, and they've helped us with some of the goal and policy audit, which I'll get to in a minute. So the first thing I want to talk about is a little bit about the data collection update and our process there. So to kick that off, we looked at several different data sources that the university looked at updating. But some of the more key ones that we want to talk about today are the economics, population, and housing, kind of the key data pieces to a master plan. In terms of economics, one of the big things they looked at was commute patterns. Commute patterns talk about the regional economy. They talk about things in terms of how they might impact transportation networks. And so one of the interesting things we found really was that Douglas County has a fairly large commute pattern, which is pretty typical for a rural area, both people coming in to work at Douglas County from surrounding areas, but also residents of Douglas County who are leaving to work in the adjacent counties. And so I think one thing that tells us in terms of a master plan is that Douglas County is really tied to the broader regional economy, and all those play into a factor in what you need to consider as you're updating a master plan. The other thing we looked at was population, and you'll see in the document there's in our charts is that there's really different levels of population, and so I think what we try to do in terms of a master plan is look at the historic data, look at the demographers' projections, and kind of look at historic population and try to see where you might come out in terms of the next 20 years. And none of us have a crystal ball, but it just gives you an idea of potential growth that Douglas County might experience over the next 20 years. And one thing we found with population is Douglas County a little bit higher than the state average in terms of an aging community, with an average age of about 49.7. And what's important about that is that as your population gets older, it starts to impact levels of service, types of public services that are needed, and just availability of housing, availability of workers. It's just something that we need to keep in mind as we're working through the master plan and how that might impact that. And then what's interesting as part of that, and when we looked at housing, one of the interesting facts was that Douglas County's housing, over half of it was built in 1989 or earlier. The important fact there is that because of Nevada's tax structure, the university is projecting that 50% will have a 50% depletion of the property tax base over the next 10 to 15 years. And so as you have this aging population that's getting older and you have less property taxes coming in, it starts to create this gap in terms of how you pay for the increased demand of services. So those were just a few of the key points that came out of the data collection effort. So moving on, the next thing we looked at as part of this update was had Logan Simpson focus in on the goals and policies, and they actually did a pretty thorough, in-depth survey that was handed out to planning commissioners, Board of County Commission, staff, and also was made available to the public. It was a very long survey, so to get 30-plus peer reviews on a survey like that was pretty good. And so one thing we'll look at here is basically we found there's 53 goals and 206 policies, and the the 2016, the previous draft that was updated. And so what we're looking at is how do we refine these? And so the survey helped us kind of hone in on, is most of the goals we need to keep. We don't need to touch those, but focus our efforts more on what we need to refine and drop in terms of policies. And so what we did is right now we've taken the 53 goals and we've gone to 24 goals. And I think we have another public survey out that's mainly for the public to give us some feedback on how we've amended those goals. And so we really want the public, it's important for you to take that survey and give us feedback on whether or not we've organized those goals in a more efficient manner and help kind of streamline those to the point where they become more implementable and they're less duplication. It's easier for the public, for staff, for the county commission, planning commission to hone in on exactly what goals the community wants to see over the next 20 years. And right now we're in the process of doing a similar exercise for the policies. And so our goal is to try to get those 206 policies down to something more manageable and reorganize them by the new goals. And so the public's input on these goals are key to helping us organize the policies as we move forward. So as we move, as we move on through some of the elements, and you'll see for those of you that are in the room and for those of you that are watching online, the boards are available through the slide and through the website. But we have the goals outlined by the new elements that are proposed. And so in terms of land use and historic preservation, we're looking at 3 primary goals as of now. That could change based on the results of the survey. But really one of the key goals there was the community plans. And so the first goal talks about honoring those community plans and achieving a balance for the county in terms of looking at agricultural area, open space, development, just kind of that balance, and really looking towards the community plans that those communities have spent time on. And so that's kind of where that goal leads to, and obviously some of the other ones. And so as we move on to agriculture and conservation, again, you'll see a lot of the similarities in the goals that were in the previous update, but more streamlined, easier to understand, and really meant to speak to the protecting of the open space, protecting the agricultural heritage here, looking at natural resources, and just kind of all those elements. And so please take a look at those. Let us know if you have a feedback on those goals. And then moving on to the economic development element, again, we've got 4 goals proposed for this one. Looking at, as I mentioned earlier, from some of the data collection that we looked at, just in terms of the connectivity to the regional economy and ways that we can embrace what is here, especially in terms of the recreation and different elements that create the sense of place for Douglas County, and how we can tie the economic development to those and really foster what you guys have here. Moving on to growth management and housing. So this was one that was combined. We have 5 proposed goals here. Again, just looking at housing and as we grow over the next 20 years, that level of growth and how we look at housing moving forward. And so these goals are tied to speak to a lot of that and kind of the policies that have been in place for Douglas County. And again, we will be organizing policies. So although these goals are fairly high level, there will be policies that are formed underneath each of these that get into more detail. But the idea with the goals is really stay high level, allow the community and staff and the commissions to understand what the direction we're headed to, and then we organize the policies to help support those. Moving on to public facility services and recreation. This is one where we combined a few elements, and so a lot of these goals are, again, you'll see protecting the public lands, maintain service delivery standards, with the GIDs and just the different facilities as regional approaches to working together in terms of providing better services. And kind of the last one The last element, public safety, we have two goals here, and they're two very important goals. One being related to the natural hazards and kind of the natural environment around us and how we protect that and limit hazards as much as we can. And then the second goal is really related to protecting public health, safety, and welfare, providing adequate law enforcement services, fire protection, and emergency medical services. And again, we'll have policies underneath those. I get into more detail, but those seem to be kind of the main two goals related to public safety for Douglas County that were kind of duplicative. There was several different goals related to these that were essentially saying the same thing. And so we were able to kind of narrow them down to two important key goals, and we'll have policies that support those. So that's kind of a little lead into what we're working on in terms of reorganizing the document. Again, we have the survey out there. We really want to get the public's feedback and make sure we're headed down the right path for the goals. If you feel there's something we've missed, please fill out that survey and let us know and give us your feedback on that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the planning manager, Sam Booth, who will wrap up the presentation.
Thank you, Derek. The next thing we want to talk about here as part of the presentation are the next steps for moving this plan forward in the approval processes and some of the next opportunities for public input and public hearings that we'll be having. So right now, as we've talked about, we have a public survey that's been open since September 1st. That survey is going to continue to be open through the end of the month, and we'll close on September 30th at the end of the day. So please, if you haven't yet, go online and fill out our survey. Appreciate your input there. We are hoping to, after the public workshops this week, collect this information and move forward with drafting of the plan. And the projection is to have a draft of the master plan update available for public review as early as October 12th. Beyond that, we will have the first Planning Commission hearing on October 20th and a follow-up hearing on October 21st. After those first two hearings, we're expecting that the Planning Commission may request revisions or just need some more time to review the plan. And so we're planning a final Planning Commission hearing on November 4th for a recommendation and potential adoption of the plan. So after the Planning Commission hears the plan and reviews it, hopefully they will approve the plan on November 4th. And as early then as November 5th, we'll make that public period of inspection of the draft copy of the plan available for about 30 days before the Board of County Commissioners here in December. So the draft plan that the Planning Commission approves will be available for review potentially from November 5th to about December 4th. And then the plans would be for the county commissioners to hold hearings on December 9th, 10th, and 11th, potentially 3 days there for hearings for their approval process. Of course, each of those meetings will be public hearings. Public input would be sought as part of each of those meetings and public comment. And we would ask you to send any comments or questions you have to staff, to the commission ahead of time, or both make comments during those hearings. So that wraps up our presentation on the master plan update. Really at this point, I think we're going to open things up to questions from those of you in the audience here and potentially those of you at home. So if you're watching on the YouTube stream, you can comment in the comments section there. You can also comment by emailing us at masterplan@douglasnv.us. So with that, are there any questions? We have to check that, Tom. Did we lose one?
Thank you. So I'm inquiring about the public safety element, goal 1, where it says provide the community with increased safety from natural hazards through compatible design and development practices, etc. Clearly, we are experiencing an environmental problem with all the smoke and so forth that we are experiencing. So in this particular element, is there some discussion about the wildland urban interface and perhaps in Title 20 with updating the building standards in the WUI area? Because we've seen that again after the Paradise Fire and what's happening along our coastal states, that there are many areas that have been totally destroyed, and millions of acres and housing and whatnot. So I just want to make sure that there's something in regards to WUI and Title 20.
So thank you for the question. Relating to public safety and natural hazards, we do have some policies in the draft 2016-2017 master plan, and I believe there was even an action item in the draft plan discussing future consideration of a WUI code and bringing a WUI code forward. If once we receive public input on the goals that we have today, and this one in particular speaks to natural hazards and public safety relating to natural hazards, we do have policies from the draft plan that we're going to be reviewing as the next stage of the plan moves forward. And I do believe that there are several policies that speak to the urban interface, the wildland urban interface, and the need for a WUI code. So that would be a perfect goal for those. Definitely, as you said, it's a hot topic right now, no pun intended, and it's a very important consideration, and that's why you see that goal reflected in the public safety element.
Also, with the WUI code, Tahoe Douglas already has a code in place in the tree area. East Fork Fire is going to have to do a bunch of work in order to implement a WUI code down here in the Carson Valley, and so they'll be working on that effort. So.
And just beyond that, maybe a follow-up. What we expect with the typical process for the master plan update, we have received quite a few comments about other potential code updates and Title 20 changes that may be needed. The intent of the master plan and the master plan update is to direct staff and the planning commission and the county commissioners as we move forward what those text updates may be. So WUI code being one of them, that if the master plan has a discussion in there for the need for that, as we move into the next stages of potentially updating Title 20 in the next year or so, that we can point to these goals or policies within the master plan as why there's a need to update the code accordingly.
John Sheridan, Gardnerville Rancho's board trustee, and I just want to thank Mr. Dallaire, Sam, and staff. Lorenzo, thank you guys for doing everything you've done so far to bring forward with the master plan update. My question, obviously we're very concerned about water in the Gardnerville Ranchos and supporting future growth as called out in the master plan, specifically the receiving area. I'm aware of, in the 96 original master plan update, and the engineering firm working together with the commissioners, they came up with a number of around 49,000 people within the Valley County portion that could be supported off the groundwater source. I know we're at 40,000 currently in the Valley. We have approved homes that will take us well beyond that number that was estimated back in 96. Now, that really means nothing, but when we look at the large receiving area in the Gardnerville Ranchos coupled with the USGS report, do you think it would be prudent for the Gardnerville Ranchos to start specifying where groundwater rights are coming from and brought in, because we don't have the real water, wet water in the ground per se. And over time, as we go with the goals of achieving the master plan and building out that receiving area, would it be prudent for the ranchos to specify where the water rights are coming from, and that those water rights should be coming from where there is wet water available, and that we should really ultimately focus on water rights that are going to be utilized for urbanization, such as rights Minden or the town of Gardnerville's hold, while trying to preserve agricultural groundwater rights because we get that secondary recharge. And I really is ultimately to support the growth for the master plan within the Gardnerville Ranchos. Thank you.
You want to take a stab at that, Tom? But that's
Well, it is a good question, and it's a great planning opportunity. But we've got to do some more studying on this, and I think it's going to be important that you discuss, at least the ranchos communicate with Minden and Gardnerville and their water systems for connectivity, so you have a backup opportunity there. There is, I think, an effort to work with USGS to get a little more information on that report that was prepared in 2012 and get an update to that. I know the county manager's office has been up there and discussed that with them. I've been up there to discuss that with them, and it's going to take an effort and a budgeting effort on our part to fund that report. So I know we're working on that. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Jennifer?
Thank you, Tom. Jennifer Davidson, Assistant County Manager, for the record. Thank you for your question. This is a good conversation that staff and our team have been having. We absolutely think that's a policy decision for the Gardnerville Ranchos Board, and we can understand why you're asking the question. We think it's important for us to look at regional water planning in all of these municipalities, and to come forward with some sort of unified approach and plan for this aquifer. It's a little bit of a chicken or the egg kind of situation, because if you do specify which water rights and commit those to a particular project, that project may or may not be able to break ground within a specified time frame. From a policy perspective, your board may think that's a good thing because those water rights are then locked and loaded and secured to that project, which means that they're not available for use for other projects. That's why I say it truly is a policy decision for your board. Regardless, water resource planning is a very important issue for Douglas County, and I am very much looking forward to having those discussions with the County Commission and the Planning Commission moving forward. I do think it's an important issue we should try to address in the master plan. Thank you for raising the question.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Mrs. Davidson. I just want to call out that under the growth management housing, I really like over the overall goal, you kind of specifying it's what the resources can handle. And then also, Sam, I really liked how you touched on, called out working together to provide services into the future so we can coexist. And I really think that means Minden, the town of Gardnerville, Gardnerville Water, whether it be Gardnerville Ranchos, the county, really coming together to coexist and working together, and I think that's what it's going to take. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you. I guess I didn't identify myself previously. Jan Muzzy, Minden. I'm looking at economic development, and on Goal 3, you list capitalize on outdoor recreation, lifestyle, and agritourism opportunities. I'm not familiar with the term agritourism, and if you can please give me a definition and an example of that.
Thank you, Jan, for the question. Agritourism, I think, as it relates to that goal and as it relates to economic development, is the discussion around the Carson Valley and Douglas County and the unique agriculture and agribusinesses that we have in the county here. And is there an opportunity for the county, the farmers, the ranchers, to capitalize on that, just from an economic perspective and from a visitor perspective, to bring people from other areas to come visit and spend their money buying products from those ranchers or from those farmers. The best example I can speak to that, it was a presentation that the county commissioners were given earlier this month by Jack Jacobs of Jacobs Berry Farm, where he had a discussion about the need for ranchers and farmers in the valley to expand and look at growing other types of fruits and vegetables. And he gave his farm as an example for that, diversifying the type of things that are grown in the area. And the opportunities that he's describing that on his farm, he has people coming as far as from Reno to come down and buy berries and other fruits from the farm. And so I think agritourism is just saying that we have a unique ability to grow agricultural products here. And there's a renewed interest, I think, in knowing where your food is grown and where your food comes from. And you don't have to be someone just from Douglas County to be interested in that. I think people recognize that we are an agricultural center in northern Nevada, and there's, how can the farmers and ranchers capitalize on that? Okay, do we have any other questions?
Good afternoon. Thank you, staff. Thank you for the community members that are here and those people watching. My name is Barbara Smallwood, and I have a question in process. So the slides that were presented today on the master plan text update and minimizing the goals, taking them down as Wood Rogers is doing. But here I sit with all of these elements from the 2016, some of them are dated 2017, and I'm a bit confused. Combining the elements, whatever they are, and the goals and policies that are in here, as someone that's trying to be informed, I have yet to see then what the goals and policies are for this. Is that correct? So I don't know what's being eliminated from these.
Yes, so those are the goals. Those are the new goals that we have, that we're proposing to replace the goals that are in here. So the new verbiage of the goals, and it's just the goals. You haven't seen any document yet with policies. We're trying to tie down all the goals, make sure the community is supporting the goals that we have come up with, and the goals from the two packets or the elements that you have there are combined into the whatever element you're referring to on the boards, and it's those goals. So most of the time, when you look at those, you've got goals in both of those elements, and the verbiage is almost identical. And so we combine those together. That's why we combined the elements that we did, was because the goals were pretty similar in nature, and adding a few words, removing a few words to try and make it a little more broad, and then we'll have more detailed policies underneath that. But the policies are all going to come from what's already been published here, and we might have to reword a few, and we will track that. But those are the goals that were listed in that 2017, 2016 document that we started from to come up with these goals that are on each element.
So in regard to that, the update of the information in these, I don't know that we still have 39 public water systems. So that is all going to be part of what we're going to learn before November when it goes to.
We're getting there. We're getting to that point. So we're still calculating and researching that data and gathering that information, but in the meantime, we've pushed out the goals, the overreaching goals for each of those elements to what's stated on each of the boards and what's on the slides that we presented.
And then the maps will come into where it talks about topaz. The maps that you updated will be out and pulled to each community area. Right. And I think that's one of the concerns I have, is each community is so different that they may need a specific goal and policy, whether it's they accept rolled curbs or they want standard, what the design criteria is for their drainage, whether they want dirt roads or all of those. So those we all have to keep unique, correct?
But those items are specific to Title 20 and also our design standards. So it's not really a master plan vision is what type of land use this is. And so we had gone through that exercise in December to update the map to remove the receiving area that had been developed to the land use, and we specified the land use that it was developed to. So we removed all of that from the plan, and then now we have this remaining receiving area out there plus the rest of the land use structure. We didn't change any of the land uses pertaining to other areas outside of the receiving area. So it was only those projects. There was a number of projects and subdivisions in the ranchos, a few in Minden and Gardnerville, out in Johnson Lane, and then of course Clear Creek, which was located in an agricultural zone and a community plan for ag, and it's a development, and it didn't fit those goals and policies where it was located. So that's why we removed that development out and put it in northern North Valley. So.
Thank you for that information. So in regard to, you were talking about Title 20 and design criteria. For 9 years, I've been asking for it to come forward for the public noticing radius to be increased. I would like to see public debate on that. Also, the size of the signage. That has decreased from the original master plan, and you can't read what those signs are, Kings Lane, just when you drive over here. If you want to see that, you have to park, get out of your car, and go look at that. I would like to see some public debate on that. So in reference to that, am I supposed to write those on those cards so at some point they're in front of staff?
Yeah, send me an email on those things. I know about the public signs, and we did that for the maps, and we upsized them quite a bit actually from what the standard was. But we, but those are all code issues, and we're not addressing that in the master plan. This update. So the next project, Barbara, the next project will focus on code, because I've got a version on my computer that is highlighted heavily of issues that we have come across that we need to clarify and clean up.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Jennifer, do we have none from the online audience? All right. Any other questions or comments from those who are attending here today?
John Sheridan. And it's mostly a question for Wood Rogers. I know you talked about your data analysis, and I just wanted to bring up the population projection. You had I think 4 different projections on there, basically no growth, slow growth. It just came before the county commissioners. I think the University of Nevada, Reno Economic Development Department did a population projection that projected only 1,000 people over the next 2 decades. And I see at one of the worst case scenarios, we could add up to about 40,000 people over the next 2 decades. So would you be safe to say that 20,000 increase over the next 2 decades is a more accurate number than 1,000 increase? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Derek Kirkland, Wood Rogers. So when we originally did the data analysis, we just, the 1,000 people over the next 20 years was basically from the demographer's office. And, there's a lot of different factors. There's a whole model they use, and that the demographer uses that data for all over the state, right? And so we also looked at the transportation master plan that was recently updated for Douglas County, I think in 2018. And so that had different ranges. And when you're doing a master plan, you're looking at all kinds of different data, right? Everyone's got their own model, their own projection. And so what we wanted to do is, we thought the transportation plan did a really good job of saying, hey, we don't really have a crystal ball, so here's some different options. And I think the 1%, the low growth, was something that we're planning to utilize for the master plan, which I believe is about 20,000 people over the next 20 years. It's just a reasonable based on all the different projections, it seemed like the most reasonable to go with that. And if you look at the historic growth, it kind of follows similar to that. So.
And also, John, the projections on this, so when you look at all the plans that Douglas County has put together over the years, this table has changed substantially in each one. And so this was the most current one that we did have done. And then I don't know that UNR's actually touched this to manipulate that at all. This is just pulled, this image in particular is just pulled out of the transportation plan. And I don't know if it was updated really from 2013, because you look at that start date on that, and it was from 2013. And there's, we've got the growth initiative that started in 2007, the growth ordinance, and so I'm assuming we're going to try and clarify that a little bit more on the update. All right. Any other comments or questions, concerns? Any questions? No? Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you for taking time out of your guys' schedule to come and listen to us talk about the master plan. And please remember that we do have that survey out, and you can see the survey at is it all back there? Here we go. Sorry. Douglas, it's www.douglas.woodpoles.com. And that's where the survey can be found. And Jennifer, did you want to close this?
I did just want to add a couple closing comments. So I want to add my thanks to those attendees in person and online. It has been a very interesting circumstance with COVID, and we do wish that we were able to visit with more individuals face to face. But I am pleased to say that so far the survey's been out for, how many days has it been out for? 11 days, and we have over 470 respondents to the survey. That is very good information. We're going to continue to push that out. Public feedback on the master plan is very, very important. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your comments. It's clear to us that those who are responding to the survey are being very deliberate in their responses. They're taking it very seriously. They have lots of comments that they're inputting, which will be shared with the Planning Commission and the County Commission when they make their decisions on the master plan. This is very important. This is not the only opportunity the public will have to comment during this process, but it certainly helps us kick things off, and we thank you. And that's it. Thank you, and everyone have a good day. We will be here open house for a couple of hours between now and our next presentation at 2 p.m., I believe. And staff will be milling about here and happy to answer any additional questions. Thanks.